Yeah, hi guys. Today we are going to see different kind of processing strategies we will see. So if you see in Google Chrome also you can see. First we'll type. Okay. Yeah. So we have different kind of processing strategies. Okay. So we'll see in MuleSoft especially. So synchronous flow processing strategy we have mule process message in a single thread. Okay, queued asynchronous processing strategy. Mule uses queues to decouple the receiver thread from the rest of the flow. For the majority of use cases, the implicit strategy selected by the mule is optimal. Okay, they have given some kind of a introduction of the processing strategies. But if you go through the documents, you can go more things. Okay, let's see. So here you can say synchronous versus asynchronous processing strategy. Let's see this link. Okay, why? Because today we are going to discuss about the synchronous processing strategy, asynchronous processing strategy. So what is this processing strategies? First of all, we'll see. Okay, what is this? Is there anything? No. Okay, they have given us like a slides. So synchronous processing strategy, they have given something. I think it's not useful that much. I need to see, I need to check this for that. Okay. Okay, let's discuss in our own way. So first of all, I'll create a one sample application regarding processing strategies. Okay, let's create processing strategies. I'm going to create. Someone ping me. Okay, let's create a one flow sample flow for your understanding. Okay, first I'll start with my flow with HTTP listener. I'll start. After that, I'll take. Okay, I'll keep one logger here, and after that I'll take one set payload. Anything is fine. Okay, set payload is fine, and here just I'm calling the some kind of a subflow. Already we have some flows example, right? So in that I think we can explain very clearly, right? Flows example. Where is that flows example? This is the flows example. Okay, here we're calling subflow and private flow, right? So how it will execute? So this all will execute in a single thread. Is nothing but a synchronous. Okay, already we have explained these things, right? So here you can see, here I have some. This is the main flow I have. I'm calling some subflow here. So it will call the subflow. This is a subflow, and after that it will call the private flow. So this is the private flow. Okay. So in this way your flow will be there. So here how you can execute this? Just I want to execute this in a debug mode for your understanding, better understanding. I'll execute this in a debug mode. Let's see. I'll add the breakpoint also. You know, right, how to implement this flow? Just add that set payload. You can drag from here and you can write this message. And here you can drag logger and you can set payload. Okay. So after that, we are using flow reference to call this subflow. And after that, you are using logger to print the payloads. Okay, if you want, I can build a from starting onwards also, that is fine. Okay, let's build from starting onwards. Think then only you can understand very well. Okay, I'll have stopped the flow. Okay, so HTTP listener is there for me. I'll create the HTTP listener configuration. Just simply click on add button and click on OK button. Your listener configuration will create. After that, slash test. I'll give them my path is like test. So here I'll give some kind of a flow started. Okay, flow started I'll give. Here I'm giving the some kind of a set payload, right? So set payload 1. Here also I'll mention in the single code set payload 1. Simply I'm writing. Otherwise I can write some kind of a customer payload. The customer payload. Okay, same thing I'll write here. This is the customer payload I have. Okay, so then I have one more subflow or private flow. Anything is fine. Okay, so subflow or private flow, anything is fine. So suppose if I take subflow, in the subflow, I have some other payload. What is that payload? I have some student payload. Student payload. So here also I can write that student payload. Yeah, I have student payload in the subflow. Sorry, this is not subflow because this is the private flow. Subflow is different. Okay, so private flow have error handling as well as the source, but subflow don't have error handling and source, right? So here you can write subflow. If you drag the subflow, you can understand the difference. Okay, so this is the subflow, this is the private flow. Even if you want to drag this set payload to this subflow, you can drag. Okay, what happened? Okay, I can remove this private flow. Now I have main flow and I have subflow. Okay, this is the main flow I have. Main flow. And this is the subflow I have. So now I have two flows. One is the main flow, one the subflow. Subflow have student payload, main flow have customer payload. For example, if I execute this, which payload I'll get? For example, I'll get, okay, this is the flow end. Can anyone tell me like which payload I'll get in this scenario? Customer payload or subflow payload?
Customer payload.
Customer payload, right? Let's see. So it is a very big challenge for you. So even sometimes you cannot guess also. Okay, the output you will not guess also. Just please try to understand how this flow will execute. Okay, so I'll keep here a debug point. So just I want to execute my flow step by step. Okay, so here I'm sending the request. The request will come here. I'm clicking on F6, nothing but next processor. Now my payload is setting. Okay, here even if you want to check the payload also you can check here. Okay, here I don't have any payload as of now. If I click on F6, you can see a payload. Okay, so customer payload is setting and same returning to the browser. Customer payload is returned to the browser, right? So if I call this subflow by using flow reference, okay, we call this subflow by using flow reference. So if I call this subflow by using flow reference, display name also I'm changing for better understanding. Now tell me which payload you will get to the browser.
Now we will get student payload.
Student payload, right? Okay, let's see. I'm sending the request. So the request will come here. The request will come here, and you can see like starting logger is printed, flow started. Here as of now my payload is empty. If I cross this cursor, so then my payload is customer payload. Then it is going to the subflow. Now you can see my payload is student payload. So same payload you can see. Okay, so flow ended. If you want to see along with this message, if you want to see the payload also, you can see. How you can see? For that you need to change. Okay, here you need to add the payload. Here also you need to add the payload. Even if you want to give some proper name also you can give. End logger. This is end logger. This is the start logger. Now everything is fine, right? This is the start logger. By seeing this only you can easily understand. This is the start logger, customer payload, subflow, end logger. Here you can say student payload. Now my flow is ready. So again I'll trigger. Okay, so previously it is printing only just log message, right? Now it will print the payload as well. Okay, so if it triggered, you can observe very clearly. Okay, so here you can see flow started. I don't have any payload, so that's why it is printing empty. But in an end logger, you can see it is printing the student payload. Okay, if you want to print this logger also, I can keep here and I can print the customer payload in this start logger. End logger you can print the student payload. Okay, so in this way you can execute this flow synchronously. This is called synchronous execution. What is the synchronous? First of all, so this entire thing will execute in a single thread. Okay, first the thread will come here, same thread it will going to the subflow, and same thread it will come here, and after that the final logger will execute, right? So this is everything is going in a single thread, so it's nothing but a synchronous. Okay, and here I want to tell you one more point also. Okay, I'll clear the console. If I triggered, okay, if I triggered, the request will come here, and now you can see, so in the starting logger the customer payload is printed. After that it is going to the subflow. Okay, now you can see until execute this subflow. Okay, until execute the subflow, this main thread will wait. Okay, so the thread will wait at the flow reference level. So it immediately it will not execute the logger. Okay, so until complete the, even if you have 20 components here, this flow reference will wait until complete all the subflow execution. Once it is completed, then only it will come to the main flow. It will execute this final logger. Okay, so yeah, finally in the starting logger it is printing the customer payload. In the ending logger it is printed the student payload. Okay, in this way it will execute synchronously. Then how we can execute this flow asynchronously? So let's see. Okay, so if I drag this flow reference within the async scope, two way you can drag this async scope. Okay, first directly you can type async. Okay, sorry, yeah, async scope is there, right? Directly I will drag this async scope. Inside this async scope I can keep this flow reference. This is the one way. Otherwise there is a one shortcut. Okay, if you want to drag the async scope, so directly you can right click on this flow reference and click on wrap in option and select the async. So automatically this flow reference will go to async scope. Okay, here you can see multiple scopes. So these are all scopes. If you select any scope, it will go under that scope automatically. In this way you can assign the async scope. Now can anyone tell me can anyone guess the output? So which output I'll get?
Both will get customer and student.
Okay, both will get, right? Okay, any other guesses, guys? Any other guesses? Hello. Okay, we'll see. Okay, let's see what will happen. I'm sending the request. Okay, the request will come here. So then in the start logger, you can see, okay, customer payload is printed. So immediately, if I click on F6, immediately it is coming to the logger. Okay, so which logger it is? End logger is printed with the same payload, customer payload. Okay, so it is printed in the first start logger, customer payload. It is going to here. Immediately it is going to the end logger and it is printed the customer payload, same payload. Okay, here my payload will not change. Okay, and again, okay, observe very carefully how it will execute. Again, I'm clicking on F6 button. It is going to the subflow. Okay, but here again it is not coming back to the main flow, right? So this end logger is already printed. So that's why you can see like how you can understand this flow execution. So here this subflow is executing asynchronously, nothing but whenever your thread will create, whenever you send your request from the postman to Muleflow, one thread will create. So in synchronous mode, only that single thread will execute in our entire flow, right? But here, so up to here it will come as a single thread. Whenever this async scope will come, so main thread will continue directly and one more child thread will create. Okay. Child thread will execute the subflow asynchronously. Nothing but it will not get any response to the main flow from the subflow. Okay. So only it will execute the subflow, but it will not take any response from the subflow to the main flow. This subflow will execute asynchronously under async scope. So it will not expect any response from the subflow. So that's why always you will get main thread response only. Why? Because it will not take any subflow response, right? So even for your better understanding, okay, for your better understanding, I can use two loggers also, two more loggers, okay, two more loggers. So here I can give like start subflow. Start subflow logger. Same thing I can give. Here I can write payload. Okay. After that I can write very carefully. Sorry, why this is the end. This is the start. Hey, even here also I can keep start main. Start main flow logger. This is okay. The same way. End. Okay. Now everything is fine, right? So this is the main flow logger. Here also I'm printing payload. Here also I'm printing payload. Here also I'm printing payload. Everywhere I'm printing payload. Can anyone tell me like in the start main flow which payload it will print, customer payload or student payload, like that you have to tell to me. Okay, like I'll clear the console for the better understanding. Can anyone tell me? Okay. So first customer payload, right? So here you can see my payload is customer payload. So in main logger, okay, in main start logger, which payload it will print? Customer payload. It is everyone know. So now tell me in a end logger, okay, in the main flow end logger, which payload it will print? Can anyone tell me?
Customer only.
Customer logger, right? Okay, okay, that's fine. So now tell me in subflow start logger, which payload it will print?
Customer.
Customer, right? Let's see here. Subflow, yeah, customer payload it is printing. Okay. After that, it is setting student payload. Okay. So now tell me subflow end logger, which payload it will print?
Student.
Student.
Okay, student. So then my flow is ended. Nothing but first this logger is executed. After that, end logger is executed. Then under child thread, okay, this thread will execute asynchronously, right? So under child thread, these two loggers will execute and this payload also. So nothing but here I'm not getting any response student payload to the main flow. Everywhere I can see in the main flow. So this is the main flow. This is the main flow. Everywhere I can see only customer payload only. I cannot get this student payload to the main flow. This is asynchronous flow behavior. Okay. Try to understand, guys. Okay. For your complexity, I'll remove this async scope. Now tell me. Okay. It is bit difficult. Okay. Let's see, I'll divide with something this way. Better, right? So you can think like it's a kind of a game, okay? You have to guess what you are going to print and everything. Let's see. Now tell me like which logger will print at which payload, okay? So I'm sending the request. Now tell me. So in the first logger, already you know it will print always customer payload. Okay, this is fine. But from here you need to, okay, in first logger, which payload it will print? Subflow start logger. Can anyone tell me?
Customer.
Customer payload, right? Okay. In end logger, which payload it will print?
Student.
Student, right? So in main flow end logger, which payload it will print?
Student.
Student.
Yes, exactly. Right? So this is the behavior of the synchronous and asynchronous. Okay. Now you can understand. I hope you understand very well. Why? Because now here you can see this start main flow start logger. I can print this customer payload, but in the main flow end logger, I can print this student payload. Why? Because here I'm not using any async scope, right? Async scope, we are not using async scope means it will expect the response from the subflow. Okay, it will go to the subflow and it will take the response from the subflow and it will return to the next next logger. Nothing but it will execute the next flow. But in the async scope level, it will create two threads. Main thread will execute with the main payload and subflow thread will execute the subflow payload. But subflow will not return to the main thread. Okay. So in that way, you can understand the synchronous and asynchronous processing strategy. Same thing you can execute by using the private flow also. There is no difference actually. Use flow or subflow or private flow, anything is fine. If I drag same components here, nothing will change. Okay, if I remove this subflow, let's see, this is the private flow, right? I'll write the private flow as well. So here you need to change actually. So here in the flow reference, Already it is referring subflow, right? You need to change subflow to private flow. Now, sorry, display name also we need to change. Let's see. Everything is fine, right? So this is also private flow execution. Same execution you can see now also. Okay, I'm sending this. I'm sending this request. The request will come here. It will go to the private flow. Private flow also will execute. Finally, it will come to the main flow. So it will print. Here you can see all the loggers. Okay. So this is the main flow logger, subflow logger, two subflows. After that, main flow. But if you are executing asynchronous, so main flow loggers will print first. After that, subflow two loggers will next. Okay. So the loggers printing the loggers order also will change. That thing you have to remember very carefully. For example, if I wrap in this async scope, then you have to understand. Okay. So previously main logger, main start logger. Okay, main start logger, and after that these two loggers. Finally, it is coming here, right? So if I place async scope, what will happen? We'll see. Let's see. I'm sending request. So the request will come here. I'm clearing the console also. Let's see. Main flow logger printed. So again main flow logger will print. Okay, so both main thread will execute completed, then it will go to the subflow thread, mean nothing but child thread. So subflow logger printed and again subflow logger printed. Okay, so here you need to understand how this payload is going each and everywhere. So this is about asynchronous. Okay, synchronous and asynchronous processing strategy. Okay, I'll explain one by one. Okay, here I'll take some kind of a notepad plus plus. So here you can see processing strategies. Okay, processing strategies. I can see synchronous processing strategies. Okay, you can see. Okay, this is the synchronous. Okay, this is the asynchronous processing strategies we have. Okay, okay. This is a synchronous processing strategy and asynchronous processing strategy. And we have one more processing strategy is like queued. We have three types of processing strategies. Okay, we have five types actually, but as of now we are discussing about only these three processing strategies. Okay. Let's see. Synchronous means you know very well how it will execute. Okay, it will execute in a single thread, and it will wait until complete the subflow execution, right? Nothing but it will expect the response from the child thread. Okay, child thread. But here in the asynchronous, it will execute multiple threads. Okay, execute in a multiple threads. Multiple threads means parent thread and child thread like that. Okay, multiple threads. it will not, okay, so asynchronous scope will not expect the response from the child thread. Okay, so here you can see queued asynchronous also same work like as a asynchronous. Okay, both are same, there is no difference. It will also execute multiple threads, so even it will also not expect the response, right? Just give me 1 second. Sorry. Yeah, here you can see synchronous, asynchronous, queued asynchronous, right? So asynchronous and queued asynchronous both are same actually. There is no difference. So both are will execute asynchronously only. So but here we are using, okay, for the asynchronous we are using async scope. Okay, async scope. But okay, but for the queued asynchronous we have to use the different mechanisms like a VM queue. We have to use JMS. So different queues we'll use. Okay, I'll explain how we can use this very clearly. So first we'll go with the VM queue. By using VM queue, how we can achieve this queued asynchronous. Okay, let's see how we can achieve this queued asynchronous. So in the same scenario, okay, everything I'll use, but instead of this flow reference async scope, I will use the queue mechanism. Okay, so I can achieve the queued asynchronous processing strategy. How I can use the queues instead of this async and flow reference, I'll tell you. Okay, simply you have to include VM module to your application. Okay, just drag to your application. Okay, add to your application. In the VM module you can see all the operations here. Okay, once you got the VM, so you can see all the operations. So here I'm sending this customer payload to the this soft flow or private flow. I'm using flow reference, right? By using flow reference I'm sending this payload to here, but this time I'll not send my payload through the flow reference. Here I'm sending my payload to the publish, VM publish. Okay, by using VM publish I can send asynchronously, automatically. By default it will send asynchronously. Okay, so let's see, I'll remove this async as well as the flow reference also. Instead of this asynchronous flow reference I'm using VM publish. So here I'm publishing, but how can I receive that message here, that payload, this payload I'm receiving here? By using, okay, by using VM listener. Okay, by using VM listener I can listen this message. Okay, so previously we have interacted these two flows by using flow reference, right? Now we are interacting these two flows by using queue mechanism. So for that you need to create a one queue. You need to create a one queue. How you can create? Go to the queues section. In the queues section you can go to the edit inline section. In the edit inline section you can add the queue. Okay, here just click on add button. Here you can add the queue. So you can give queue name anything. Okay, test queue. Okay, test 1 2 3, test sample, anything you can give. Okay, so here you can see queue type is transient and queue type is persistent. So by default we can go with the transient. Transient is nothing but it's a temporary queue. So once you restarted your application, your queue data will remove. Okay, so in that way it will work. So what happened, guys? Okay, let's see. Okay, transient means it's a default one. Once you restarted, your application will, your queue data will remove. Okay, persistent means even though if you restart your application, still your data will persist in your queue. But I'll go with the transient default one. Click on finish button, click on OK button. Let's see. My configuration is done. Okay. So here, from here, I can publish my data to the queue. From the same queue, I can capture the data here. Okay. How can I capture? Here you need to configure. Okay. Yeah, automatically it is suggesting, right? Queue name equal to 123, test 123. So in this way you can give, and even to execute debug mode, so it will not wait more time actually. So better to, I'll go with the design mode, then you can understand very clearly. Okay, this is the design mode. Okay, so now you can see I have configured the queue. Okay, everything is there. So here, okay, so timeout means nothing but it will wait 5 seconds actually. Okay, up to 5 seconds it will wait. I'll increase this, otherwise we'll get errors. Okay, just try to increase this thing for the better output. Okay, 50 seconds I'm giving. This is fine, right? So now my flow is ready. Just remember the async scope. Okay, same in the same way it will execute. How the async scope will execute, in the same way this VM publish and listener will work. Okay, same. So let's see how that async scope will work. Anyone remember? Like first it will come to here. So it will create a two threads. One thread is for private flow and one thread is for main flow. So immediately after this start logger, immediately main logger will execute in the async scope. After that, these two child threads will execute, right? Same behavior you can see here as well. Okay, I'm clear in the console. Okay, I'm sending the request. Let's see. Yes, clicking on X. Yeah. Now you can see in the console. Okay. Customer payload is printed in a starting logger. After that, you are sending, like directly you can see main logger. Two main loggers are printed. Same as like async scope. And after that it will come here. Even here you can see in the subflow logger, customer payload only printing. Nothing but this payload it will send to the queue. From that queue it will listen and it will print into the start logger. After that it is setting student payload. Okay. Now you can see student payload is printed. But finally to the browser it will return only customer payload only. Why? Because in main thread I have only customer payload, right? So same, always it will return the message in the asynchronous mode. Always it will return the message from the main thread only. Okay, it will not expect any response from the child thread to the main thread. Okay, this point you have to remember. And here you have one more option also. What is that option? So this will execute asynchronously, right? Same like as the async scope. If I want to execute synchronously also I can execute. Okay, if you go to the VM, here you can see multiple options, right? So if you select the publish, it will execute asynchronously. But if you select the publish consume, so it will execute synchronously. So the name itself, it will representing, it will publish the data to the queue and it will consume the response from the queue. Okay, so once it is completed, then it will consume the response and it will give to the end logger. This time let's see how it will execute. Publish consume. Okay, same queue I am referring. Timeout I am increasing 50 seconds. Press Control S. Okay, Control S means it will redeploy. Can anyone tell me, like, can anyone guess outputs at this moment? So already I'm saying, right, it will execute synchronously. If you are using publish consume, it will execute synchronously. If you are using publish, it will execute asynchronously. Let's see. I'm sending the request. So in the first logger, obviously it will print always customer payload. This is not a matter. Okay. Now tell me. So this subflow start logger, which payload it will print?
Customer payload.
customer payload, right? So okay, after that student payload is setting. So in this end logger, subflow end logger, which payload it will print?
Student payload.
Student payload, right? So now tell me, in the final main logger, okay, in the end main logger, which payload it will print?
Student payload.
Customer pay.
Yeah, any other guesses, guys?
Student payload.
Customer.
Okay, some people are saying student payload, or some people are saying customer payload, right? So let's see which payload it will print. Student payload and it will print. Why? Because already I have told you, right? So publish consume will work like as a synchronous. Publish will work like as a asynchronous. In the asynchronous means it will not get the response from the subflow. But in the synchronous, it will get the response from the subflow. It will get the response means this payload, it will return to the main flow and it will print here. But in the asynchronous, it will not expect any payload from the child threads, right? So that thing you have to remember. Okay, so don't forget these things. Okay, so for your understanding, one more time I'll tell you. Here I'm placing VM publish. Just I'm increasing the time. Drop down, you can select the CubeNet. Times automatically it will load. Okay, now tell me the logger sequences, like which logger will print first. Yeah, now again you can see the sequence. I'm sending the request F6. Now tell me, like in this logger, which payload it will print?
Customer payload.
Customer payload. Okay,
Customer.
so it will execute in a main thread. After that, it is going to the child thread. Okay, once completed main thread, it is executing child thread, but child thread response, okay, child thread payload will not return to the browser. Why? Because already it is sending the response to the browser. Already it is sending the response. Okay, so it is this child thread will execute asynchronously. Okay, you can see F6. Okay, so in this way, asynchronously it will execute, synchronously also. Synchronously means immediately this logger, this main logger will not execute. Once the child thread will complete, then only it will come to the main thread and it will execute. But in the asynchronous, so main thread will execute separately, chain thread will execute separately. Both don't have any interaction. In the synchronous, these both flows should be in a synchronous. Okay, in a sync. I can say sync. Both should be in a sync. But in the asynchronous, both should not be a sync. Okay, that is the difference you can see. Yeah, that's it about all these things. So simply I can tell you one sign kind of a real-time scenario, so then you can understand better. Okay, sometimes you will pay some amounts through the Google Pay, right? So sometimes they will, you will get, right? So in that scenario, sometimes the process will be late, right? So in that immediately you will get one response, like your payment is in process. So in that way, but internally the payment will process 1 or 2 days, right? So those flows they will execute asynchronously. Immediately they will give the response, but internally in the child thread they will execute all the payment details to the bank. Once it is done, then they will, like that update, that details will update. Okay, that will execute in a asynchronously. So you can assume so many things actually, like in asynchronous way. So parallelly, another child thread will execute in background, but we cannot see that thing. We can see only main thread only. In the main thread only, they will return one message here, like your payment is in process. Internally, one child thread will create. Internally, it will process to the bank account, your all details, your all data, all money. Okay. So in that way, you can assume the synchronous and asynchronous. So many places will use this synchronous and asynchronous, but we don't know, like is this synchronous or asynchronous. Okay. Yeah, that's it guys. That's it for today. Thank you.